This time on Jairus of All, I used some expensive materials to fix a stool that I got for free. I actually got 2 stools for free. This one was the worst of the 2 because it had these chunks taken out of it. And eventually it broke right here, which I already fixed. I super glued it together and I put some putty on it, but if you were to sit on it, it would definitely break again. The other chair broke also. I fixed that one already. Carbon Kevlar, and it's been great ever since. But this one broke recently, and now Bryce, the guy holding the camera, doesn't have anything to sit on. So I'm gonna rebuild those chunks that are missing with this epoxy putty before I do the awesome parts. I just kept working this until it stayed up and in place on its own. Worked pretty good, a little bit of sanding, and I think you won't even be able to tell that it was missing once the layers are on top of it. So I gotta do this one. Hey, look at her, she's in one piece again. Helps to have friends that have kids because you have easy access to Play-Doh, which works great to fill places that you don't want epoxy resin to go.
What flavor is that?
Grape. Let me try it.
Can I have some?
It's not grape.
It tastes salty?
Taste is salty. This is a Negra. It's made of polypropylene, and it is very new to the composites market relative to carbon fiber and fiberglass. Carbon fiber was invented 50 years before this, and fiberglass has been used for 80 some odd years. This was invented in 2008. I'm gonna use this for the majority of the material that I'm gonna rebuild the chair with. And I could probably talk for about an hour on the properties of this and how it compares to other composites, but it's roughly the strength of fiberglass, not as strong as carbon fiber, but this is the cool part about it. With normal scissors, it's very easy to cut, and all those little fibers that flew off are not gonna make me itchy, unlike fiberglass or carbon fiber. Resin. Layup. Flip. Peel fly. Bleeder. Vacuum bag. Sucky sucky. And now we wait. It's done. That took far more work than I thought it would. That was a workout. We'll just put it that way. When I wetted this out with the resin, it looked like it wasn't wet. Fiberglass, you can immediately tell it's wet. It goes translucent. This does not. It looks exactly the same. It's very, very difficult to tell where you've got resin at whenever you do this. So I put a lot of resin in there trying to get it to stick, and that ended up being one of the worst parts, was around the bottom edge of that. The parts that are sticking off extra can get sanded back. I'll fill the holes. Everything that's necessary for this to be a strong piece to actually be able to be sat on is perfectly fine. Doesn't look that great right now, but that's what the next layer is for. This looks totally different now. Spent a good amount of time sanding it back and filling some holes, and then I painted it to kind of match the next material that's gonna go on it. That way, if there's any gaps in the fibers, you can't tell. But we're gonna do this next part a little different. This is flax linen fiber, and it has only just started to be used as a composite material since sometime in the 90s, from what my research has shown, which is interesting because that makes it a relatively new composite material. But this stuff has been used for all sorts of things for thousands of years, or at least as long as we have any sort of history, they've used linen fiber. My plan is to adhere this because it's a pretty stiff fiber, to the chair. That way I make sure that it stays in place and it doesn't screw up, because this is the finished layer. And normally when you stick this stuff down, you can't work the material a whole lot because the contact adhesive will release and then it moves around because you're trying to get resin into it. So that's where the difference in this process is coming in. But if I can stick this down and get it all worked into place, put the resin on, this is where you would normally do like a vacuum infusion to get a stiff fabric to fit around complex curves. But vacuum infusion requires a whole bunch of materials that I don't have, and it uses a bunch of consumables. It makes things more expensive really quick to do a vacuum infusion. That's what I'm trying to say. So what I'm gonna do is like a poor man's vacuum infusion. I'm gonna get the fibers stuck on, and then I'll put a bunch of resin on it, stick it in the bag, pull vacuum, and then I'll try to spread the resin out with my hands because it won't spread out on its own very well. So these fibers are not quite as strong as fiberglass or carbon fiber, but they're also very inexpensive and very, very lightweight. I think their specific strength is higher than some forms of fiberglass, which means their strength compared to the amount that they weigh. Anyway, it's cool stuff. And the reason that I'm doing this quick little project is, that way I can play with it, see what the properties are like, have an inherent idea what I'm working with for future projects. And if I screw it up, it doesn't matter because it's a stool. This stuff is a little bit harder to work with than I thought it would be. Most of that's because of how many curves there are on this seat, but also the fibers are really stiff and it is unidirectional. In order for this to have a reasonably nice finish, I'm actually going to glue a little bit of peel ply just on the top section for this experiment. That way it doesn't have big chunks of resin that got stuck into the creases of the vacuum bag. Because if I put this on flat, it'll peel off and leave me a nice finish to put a clear coat on it. I don't know how much resin this stuff sucks up. I have no idea, I've never used it before. We go in the bag, centered in the breather material. It's very important, that way it doesn't stick all over it like crazy. And I don't want it to steal any of the resin that should be going into the seat. Suck pump time. Oh, I gotta open the valve. There we go, now it's suck pump time. Look at that. Just look at it. Oh, you can see which fibers has absorbed the resin. All right, let's get those bubbles out of there and get everything saturated. What do you say? A lot has happened in what to you was the last couple seconds. Firstly, I cut my finger really bad, but it's unrelated, so don't worry about that. Secondly, this looks entirely different because my experiment didn't work, but it's all cured. So I had to open the bag twice and seal it back up because the first time I put the resin in with it, and because the bag pulled so down so tight around the edge of the chair, I couldn't get the resin to go up there. It wanted to pool in the middle. And I know that I did it the wrong way, but I like to try stuff when people tell me you're not supposed to do it that way, just to see if there is a way that you can get it to work. And now I know why. Yeah, you need to have everything set up the right way to begin with. It all worked out because I opened the bag, I put more resin in, I tried my way again, and then I got everything wet, but it was still pooling so much, I knew I needed to do something about that. I put the breather bleeder cloth on so that it would be, suck up the excess resin, and I would get a decent final product. At least I hope. I haven't seen it, so, you can't see through this. Now she's rolling. Those complex curves are real difficult to peel this stuff off of. There it is. Now let's see if we can peel this off without taking fibers with it, because it looks like some of these fibers don't want to let go. I don't know why this happened, but some of these fibers don't want to stay on right there. Maybe it wasn't saturated enough. Maybe it pushed too much resin out. Oh, look at that. Those came up too. Oh man, look at all this. This peel ply does not want to let go of this. I wonder if there's directions that say that you're supposed to not use this type of peel ply. We'll just have to super glue this stuff back in before we put paint on it. Upon further inspection, the paint that was on the chair I didn't sand because I didn't want to sand through it and show the colors that were underneath. That's part of the problem because the paint is what is releasing from the chair, not this stuff. So in order to fix it, I could do another layup with different peel ply because this linen fabric definitely doesn't get along with the peel ply that I used. There is a plastic kind that has little holes punched in it that would probably work a lot better if I were to use this in the future, which is why I wanted to experiment with it on something I didn't really care about. And I'm gonna super glue the stuff back down that came up and throw some clear coat on it. Should I say something?
I thought you were. That's fine.
It still needs paint. Now it's done, all painted, and it looks pretty much like I thought it would, like wood. I doubt many people would look at this and think it was anything other than wood, much less fancy composite materials. This isn't a big project, but sometimes you gotta do stuff like this to try out new materials to see what you can do with them in the future. Thanks for watching, and I hope you're subscribed because next time, Bryce and I are getting into the Christmas spirit.